Okay, folks, this is a direct tutorial on how to use the naming and formula writing key. I'm going to refer to this as a key to write names and formulas for ionic and covalent compounds. All right, so the first thing you need to do is decide whether you're writing a name or a formula. So we are naming this particular compound. So that puts us over here. Questions to ask for naming from a formula. At that point, you go through each individual question. Is the first element a non-metal? Well, the first element is calcium. So if you go to your periodic table, this is the line that separates the metals and the nonmetals. This is calcium. This is clearly a metal. So the answer to the first question is no, it is not a nonmetal. So therefore, it is probably an ionic compound. I go to question 2. Second question, is the first element a group 1 through 3 metal? Well, this is calcium, this is group 1, this is group 2, this is group 3, so the answer to that clearly is yes. It is a 1 through 3 metal. Yes, just name it. So what that means is just take that particular symbol and just write whatever the name is for that thing. So calcium. Then we go on to question 3. Are there only 2 elements in the compound? Well, no, there's 1, 2, 3. So no, that means it has a polyatomic ion. Use the chart. Well, the polyatomic ion chart is on this data table. So I am looking for NO3. That's my polyatomic ion. And if I go in here, I see there it is, NO3. It's called nitrate. So that means that my formula name is calcium nitrate. Second one. Again, am I naming or am I writing a formula? Well, I'm naming, so I'm going to use the same questions that I did before. Is the first element a nonmetal? Well, the first element is phosphorus on your periodic table. Phosphorus is here. It is clearly to the right of the stepped line. Excuse me, it is a nonmetal. So yes, it is a covalent compound. Use prefixes to show the number of atoms. So what that means is I've got 2 phosphoruses. I need to use the prefix for that. Yeah? Well, the prefixes are over here. 1 is mono, 2 is di, 3 is tri, 4 is tetra, etc. So 2 phosphorus means diphosphorus. 5 oxygens, pent. We drop the A because it's an oxide. And we always, always, always end in IDE with those. So, diphosphorus pentoxide. All right, that's the first 2. Next 2, write a formula from a name. So we are going to be writing a formula from a name. Is the first element a nonmetal? So the first element is nitrogen. Find nitrogen on the periodic table. There's nitrogen. There's the line. Clearly, we are a nonmetal. So the answer is yes. It is probably a covalent compound. Write the formula using the prefixes. What that basically means is nitrogen has no prefixes. There's no di, tri, tetra, penta, whatever. So that just means it is nitrogen. Mono is the prefix for 1. Mono, 1. Therefore, we only have one oxide. There is our formula. Next one, write the formula for sodium phosphide. So again, what are we doing? We're writing a formula from a name. Is the first element a nonmetal? We're finding sodium. Sodium on your periodic table is here, clearly to the left of that line. Therefore, sodium is a metal. So is the first element a nonmetal? Clearly the answer is no. It is an ionic compound. Go to question 2. Question 2, is there a Roman numeral with the metal? Roman numerals like 1 or 4. Those are the Roman numerals. You will see them in the chart here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And no, there is no Roman numeral for that particular in that particular name. So therefore, no, determine the metal charge from the periodic table. So the metal is sodium. Oops. Na, right? Well, if you go back to your data tables, sodium is in group 1, which means it's a positive 1 charge. So therefore, my sodium charge will be positive 1. Does the name end with IDE? Well, yes, clearly it does. So, yes, it's probably a binary compound. Find the non-metal on the periodic table. Well, that is phosphide, right? Phosphide is phosphorus, right? Symbol P in group 5. So, P is the symbol. You are going to have the charge because it is an ionic compound. That means it has a positive and a negative charge. So we're going to find group 5 on our data table. Here's group 5. There's phosphorus. Phosphorus is a negative 3 charge. So I'm going to take my 3 negative, and then I'm going to do my crossing over thing that I do. So there's my, excuse me, that's not what I'm looking for. Here is the 1. Remember, we don't write it in chemistry. And so the 1 goes right there. Then here is a 3. And the 3 goes right there. So when we write the final formula, it's going to be Na3P, because remember, we don't write ones in chemistry. And that is how you use the key to name and write formulas for ionic and covalent compounds.